Imagine this. You're sitting alone in a dimly lit room. The windows are shut. The air is still. It's quiet. Too quiet. Not the kind of quiet that brings peace, but the kind that feels like waiting. Waiting for the storm to pass. Waiting for closure. Waiting to feel healed. You've done the work, read the books, gone to therapy, practiced mindfulness, maybe even whispered affirmations to your reflection. And yet, beneath it all, something's still fractured. Not broken, not bleeding, just unfinished. There's a strange kind of fatigue that comes from chasing healing, a weariness, not of the body, but of the soul. It's the ache that comes after endless self-reflection, after dissecting every childhood wound, every failed relationship, every trigger. It's the exhaustion of constantly reaching for a version of yourself that never quite arrives. Like running in a dream, legs moving in slow motion, while the finish line keeps shifting farther and farther away. What if just for a moment you dared to ask, what if healing is not the answer? That question might feel like blasphemy in a world obsessed with self-care, inner work, and emotional repair. Healing is the holy grail, right? The balm for our traumas, the noble pursuit, the reward after suffering. But what if it's also a trap? What if this fixation on healing, on returning to some ideal version of who you were, before the wound actually prevents you from becoming who you're meant to be after it? You see, there's a silent illusion baked into the healing narrative. It tells you that there's a you hidden somewhere in the past, before the heartbreak, before the betrayal, before the world made you bleed. And if you can just scrape away the damage, that original self will reemerge, pure and whole. But what if that version of you never truly existed? What if healing, as we understand it, is just another form of nostalgia? A myth of return? Here's the paradox. Healing is about restoration, but transformation is about revolution. Healing wants to patch the cracks. Transformation wants to burn the whole structure and build something unrecognizable. Healing comforts you. Transformation confronts you. Healing seeks safety. Transformation demands danger. So the question becomes, do you want comfort or do you want change? Because deep down, you know your pain didn't come to be healed. It came to evolve you. It came to dismantle the outdated identity you clung to when the world was simpler, safer, and more naive. Your suffering didn't arrive as a mistake. It was a catalyst, a summons, a sacred rupture. But here's the tragedy. We've turned that sacred rupture into a wound we're desperate to close. We anesthetize ourselves with journaling and mantras, hoping the ache will subside, never realizing that the ache is the doorway. It's not a detour from your path. It is the path. And as long as you try to heal it away, you'll never walk through it. Why are you so desperate to be who you were, when everything that broke you was trying to show you who you could become? Think of the butterfly. Not the cliché version embroidered on yoga mats, but the real, brutal truth of it. In its cocoon, the caterpillar doesn't grow wings. It dissolves entirely. It digests itself, becomes unrecognizable. It doesn't heal, it destroys itself to transform. And somehow, we think we can avoid that kind of death and still earn the rebirth. Isn't it strange how we praise transformation in nature, but resist it in ourselves? We light candles and chant about becoming our higher selves, but flinch the moment the transformation begins, demanding something irreversible, like the death of old dreams, old identities, or old relationships. We want to transcend without shedding. We want to grow without grieving. We want evolution without extinction. But maybe that's the point. Maybe you're not supposed to become the healed version of yourself. Maybe you're meant to become someone the old you could never even imagine. So here's the great question, the one that stirs beneath all your quiet anxieties. beneath every self-help book and late-night spiral? What if the very thing you're trying to fix is the thing that's trying to free you? What if healing is just the sedative and transformation is the real awakening? And what if the longer you wait to heal, the further you delay your metamorphosis? This isn't just about self-improvement anymore. It's about identity. It's about liberation. It's about choosing between staying inside the familiar pain of your cocoon or risking the agony of becoming something that can finally fly. But make no mistake, the world will not encourage your transformation. It will applaud your healing, cheer you on for getting better, for returning to normal. It will not applaud your destruction. It will fear it. Because transformed people are dangerous. They do not comply. They do not fit in. They set fire to inherited blueprints and walk naked into the unknown. So now, the silence you feel? It isn't emptiness, it's potential. The waiting room wasn't for healing, it was for initiation. And the question that's been whispering at the edge of your consciousness all along is now roaring in your ears. Are you ready to stop healing and start transforming? You've been told healing is noble, that it's about returning to your center, reclaiming your wholeness, and making peace with your pain. But what if the very idea of healing is a subtle deception? Not because it's malicious, but because it's limited, rooted in an assumption that who you were before the wound is who you're meant to be after it. Let that sit for a moment. Carl Jung once wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." But what if you've mistaken your pain for your story? What if your healing process has become a shrine to the very identity that pain gave birth to? You meditate, you journal, you analyze, but all within the fortress of who you think you are. You don't realize that fortress is a prison. There is a hidden reason you keep returning to the cycle of hurt and hope, reflection and relapse. It's not weakness, it's structure. Psychologically, the mind craves narrative cohesion. Your ego is a storyteller, and the first law of storytelling is continuity. You must remain the protagonist, even if it means staying broken, even if it means decorating your cage instead of walking out of it. This is why so many people heal for years and still feel hollow. The truth is, most aren't healing, they're rehearsing. Rehearsing the past, rehearsing who hurt them, rehearsing the moment they became a victim or a survivor. And each time they speak of it, it calcifies. The wound becomes identity. The pain becomes personality. But healing, when it does not evolve into transformation, becomes a kind of psychological stasis, like emotional quicksand, soft, spiritual, seductive, but deadly. It holds you in place, while you convince yourself you're moving forward. Arthur Schopenhauer believed suffering is not something to avoid, but something to understand. He saw it as the core of existence, not an error, but a law. To suffer is to awaken, and yet, we medicate and meditate our way into numbness, mistaking relief for revelation. We want stillness, not surrender. We want to feel okay, not become unrecognizable. Nietzsche takes it further. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Chaos, not comfort, is the source of transformation. And transformation does not flatter the ego, it obliterates it. The ego wants healing because healing keeps the self intact. But transformation? It demands the death of the old self, the one who was shaped by fear, molded by approval, and clung to by habit. And that is the hidden problem. The self you are trying to heal is not your true self. It's a ghost. An amalgamation of parental expectations, social norms, cultural narratives, and outdated survival instincts. You want to heal that ghost. But what if your real task is to exorcise it? Viktor Frankl, in the depths of a concentration camp, found that survival was not based on comfort or emotional closure, it was based on meaning. Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. His why was not healing, it was becoming. Becoming someone who could endure unspeakable suffering and still choose purpose. That's not restoration, that's rebirth. In contrast, modern healing culture offers soothing instead of challenge. It's become ritualized, commodified, a gentle echo chamber. There are mantras, crystals, breathing exercises, all of which can be helpful. But tools are only as powerful as the transformation they lead to. A hammer is not a home. A journal is not a soul. So ask yourself, what are you really trying to restore? The child you were before the trauma? The innocence before the heartbreak? The ambition before the betrayal? Are you sure that's who you're meant to become again? Or has pain shown you something that innocence never could? Jean-Paul Sartre believed that existence precedes essence. In other words, you are not born with a predefined self. You become who you are through action, through decision, through rebellion against the default. Healing is often passive, transformation never is. It is deliberate, violent, redemptive. This is the great tension. Healing wants to take you home. Transformation wants to burn the house down and ask you to build something that terrifies even you. And yet, you hesitate because healing is familiar. Even in its ache, it feels safe. It tells you the storm will pass and you'll return to normal. But what if normal was the lie that kept you asleep? Maybe your pain isn't asking to be healed. Maybe it's begging to be heard. Maybe you weren't meant to return, you were meant to rise. And maybe the wound wasn't a flaw. Maybe it was a message, a sacred fracture, a summons not to retreat, but to recreate. You don't notice it at first, the way your life subtly contorts around the pursuit of healing. The rituals, the routines, the safe conversations, the way you curate your days to avoid triggers, protect your energy, and minimize discomfort. It all looks healthy on the surface, but there's a darker undercurrent beneath it all. You've started building your identity around avoidance. Not avoidance of people or places, but of becoming. Because deep down, transformation feels dangerous. It threatens your narrative. So you settle for the ritual of self-care over the rebellion of self-recreation. And you convince yourself that stasis is safety. But what you're actually doing is shrinking. This is the first unseen consequence. The death of expansion. When you commit to healing without transforming, you begin to orbit yourself in tighter and tighter circles. You become obsessed with regulating your nervous system. You start measuring your worth by how untriggered you can remain. You worship calm as if chaos isn't part of life's sacred design. You build walls around your psyche so high, nothing new gets in, not even light. Over time, you don't grow, you stabilize. And stabilization is not the same as evolution. Neuroscience offers a chilling explanation. The brain is not designed for truth, it's designed for survival. Once a pattern becomes familiar, the brain clings to it even if that pattern is rooted in pain. The more you repeat your healing rituals without challenge, the more your brain hardwires those rituals into identity. You become the person who's working on themselves, perpetually on a journey, but never arriving anywhere. You've traded transformation for a treadmill, and the world around you applauds it, because society loves a healing person. They're predictable, gentle, easy to market to. You're encouraged to do the work, but only the kind that keeps you digestible. Cry, but not too loud. Rage, but in a safe space. Question, but not the entire system. The healing industry thrives on your pain remaining manageable. Not healed manageable. Enough to keep you buying, reading, seeking, but never becoming a threat. This is the second consequence. Spiritual sedation. Aldous Huxley warned of this in Brave New World, a society that keeps its citizens pacified, not through oppression, but pleasure. Discomfort was eliminated. Suffering was numbed. Growth became obsolete. They weren't enslaved by chains. They were enslaved by comfort. Sound familiar? You're offered 100 tools to calm down, but almost none to wake up. You're told to regulate your emotions, but not how to transmute them into action. You're taught to accept, but not to reinvent. Healing becomes a never-ending liminal space, a waiting room with beautiful wallpaper. And while you wait, something else begins to rot. Your relationships? Because when you orbit your pain without transforming it, you unconsciously require others to orbit it too. You start measuring their value by how much they accommodate your healing. Every conversation becomes a potential trigger. Every disagreement, a boundary violation. You don't connect, you manage dynamics. You no longer speak truth, you navigate safety. Over time, people around you start shrinking too. They become cautious, quiet, edited. And deep connection dies not because of trauma, but because of fragility. You've replaced intimacy with politeness, courage with comfort, love with emotional sanitation, all in the name of healing. This is the third consequence. Emotional sterilization. Passion, wildness, unpredictability, all the forces that create momentum get labeled as unsafe. But here's the brutal truth. Nothing alive is ever completely safe. Creation is not clean. Birth is messy. Growth is violent. Even a seed must crack open in the dark before it touches the light. But we've turned our lives into padded rooms emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, all in an effort to never feel too much again. And it works. You feel fine, not on fire, not inspired, just fine. But fine is not freedom. Fine is not transformation. Fine is the slow erosion of your potential. There's a term in behavioral psychology called learned helplessness, a state where a person stops trying to escape pain because they've been conditioned to believe escape is impossible. But in your case, it's more insidious. You're not helpless. You're healing. You're trying. So you don't notice the bars around you being rebuilt, not by abusers or oppressors, but by your own good intentions. You've become your own captor. And still, deep down, something in you resists. That ache, that restlessness, that voice that whispers, there must be more. That's not dysfunction. That's your becoming, trying to break through. But it won't happen inside your comfort rituals. It won't happen through another book, another coach, another podcast. It will happen when you stop trying to feel better and start demanding to become. That means doing the things that rupture your current identity, saying the words that terrify your social group, making the decisions that kill your reputation but resurrect your truth. Because here's the last consequence, the most devastating of all. You forget who you were born to become. You trade your destiny for emotional balance. You swap your fire for inner peace. But peace without purpose is just anesthesia. And you weren't made to be calm. You were made to rise. There comes a moment silent, subtle when the rituals lose their flavor. The words you once clung to now taste stale. The healing circles, the mantras, the self-soothing routines begin to echo like prayers to a God that stopped listening. You look around and realize you're not broken anymore, but you're not alive either. That moment is sacred. It's not a breakdown, it's a rebellion, the death of healing, the birth of transformation. You don't need another affirmation. You need a sword, because transformation doesn't whisper. It demands. It doesn't comfort. It confronts. It doesn't offer a mirror. It offers a fire. And everything that cannot survive it is meant to die. So how do you break free? Not with grace, Not with ease, but with brutality. Step 1. You must betray the identity that healing helped you protect. That's the first great heresy. You've built an entire self around survival, a persona shaped by wounds, preferences, and caution. That self is not evil. It kept you alive, but now it's keeping you small. And you can't bring it with you. Imagine a snake refusing to shed its skin because it was once warm. You must outgrow yourself again and again, or rot inside your own comfort. To do that, you must do what healing culture fears the most. Make bold, irreversible decisions. End the relationship. Quit the job. Leave the environment. Not because it's broken, but because you're not. Because your potential is now too big to fit the space you once called safe. Step 2. You must renounce neutrality. Healing asks for peace. But transformation demands polarity. It requires you to take a side your own. It means drawing lines, speaking truths, holding positions that will make people uncomfortable. It means accepting that authenticity is inherently divisive, that you will be misunderstood, that some people loved your healing self because it was digestible and they will not survive your expansion. But that is not your concern, because this is not a journey of harmony, it's a war of becoming. Rebellion is not a phase. It's the original design. Even nature operates by rupture. Forests burn to rebirth themselves. Volcanoes tear open the earth to create new land. Your discomfort isn't dysfunction, it's instinct. An evolutionary signal that you've stayed too long in a version of yourself that has expired. And what follows is not serenity, but savagery. You'll grieve identities you thought were permanent. You'll mourn the masks you wore so long they became skin. And in that mourning, you'll taste your first freedom. Step 3. Embrace contradiction. The transformed self is not clean. It's not symmetrical. It doesn't fit into neat spiritual language. You will hold love and rage at once. You will feel joy in the middle of grief. You will be expanding and terrified, rising and unraveling all at once. And you must let it all be true. Nietzsche called this becoming who you are. Not the polished idea of yourself, but the wild, uncensored force beneath every false version of you. He believed in eternal recurrence, the idea that you must live as though you'd relive each moment forever. And that includes your choices, your rebellions, your burns. So burn beautifully. Step 4. Create something irreversible. You don't complete your transformation by thinking differently. You complete it by building differently. Write the book that scares you. Launch the project that no one asked for. Speak the truth that shatters the illusion. Creation is how you signal to the universe that you're done waiting to feel ready. Transformed people don't need permission. They build what they've never seen, because nothing changes until something is built. Even Viktor Frankl, whose entire philosophy centered on meaning, believed that transformation wasn't a thought experiment, it was action. He didn't survive the camps by meditating. He survived by choosing, again and again, to assign meaning to his suffering, and then acting from that meaning, even when death stood inches from his face. So act, even when you're scared, especially when you're scared. Step 5. Disobey the system that taught you healing was enough. You've been told to regulate your emotions. Stay calm. Be good. But your wildness is your divinity. Your rage is sacred. Your sorrow is holy. Your vision is revolutionary. Stop apologizing for being too much. Start questioning why you were ever told to be less. Jean-Paul Sartre insisted that man is condemned to be free, that with no divine blueprint, we are responsible for creating our own essence. It's terrifying. It's also exhilarating, because it means no one is coming to save you. But it also means no one can stop you. And that is the real rebellion. To stop seeking repair and start wielding rebirth. So here you are. The cocoon is melting. The room you called safe is now a coffin. The rituals feel like sedation. The mirror shows a ghost. Good. That means the fire is near. And you're not here to heal anymore. You're here to transform. You've torn through illusion, burned through comfort, watched your former selves crumble at your feet like ash in the wind. And now, you stand at the threshold, not of another chapter, but of something far more terrifying. A blank page, no script, no wound to narrate, no identity to protect, no healing left to do. Just this vast, silent potential stretching out before you. And the most haunting realization of all, there is no healed version of you. There never was. There is only this moment, this breath, this terrifying, exquisite freedom. You've spent years trying to become whole again. But wholeness isn't something you arrive at. It's not a destination. It's not a feeling. It's not even something you are. It's something you create moment by moment through the choices you dare to make without guarantees. This is the final truth. You were never meant to return to who you were. You were meant to become who you've never been. The old self wasn't your home. It was your holding cell. It gave you structure, but it stole your power. And every step of your so-called healing was never meant to restore that self. It was meant to strip it away, to dissolve every version of you that could be harmed, dismissed, forgotten, or denied. You thought the wound was the end, but it was the womb. Your suffering wasn't an interruption of your path. It was the path. Your pain didn't shatter you. It sculpted you. You learned to carry fire in your chest without letting it consume you. You learned to sit inside chaos without screaming for rescue. You learned to let go without ceremony, to begin without certainty, and to love without guarantees. That's not healing, that's power. The kind of power no one can give you and no one can take away. And now comes the final test, not to fix or escape or even rise, but to live without needing a reason. Can you exist without being defined by your trauma, without being motivated by your past, without seeking constant growth to justify your place in the world? Can you be without building a monument to your becoming? This is where transformation ends. In silence. In the empty space where identity used to live. In the unshackled breath that doesn't need to defend itself. Jean-Paul Sartre would say, this is your radical freedom. That once you've torn away the imposed meaning of your life, you become the one who chooses. But this freedom, he warned, is both a gift and a burden. Because now, everything is yours. There's no trauma left to blame, no blueprint to follow, no future self to chase, just you. And in that stillness, another truth flickers. You are not becoming something better. You are remembering something eternal. You are not here to fit in. You are not here to be liked or balanced or validated. You are not here to avoid pain or to find peace. You are here to burn, to crack the illusion of separation, to embody the paradox. You are the destroyer and the creator, the storm and the silence, the ruin and the resurrection. Not because of what you've healed, but because of what you've let die. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that to live is to suffer, but that in suffering, we access the deeper truth of existence. And now you know what that means. The wound was never the enemy. The pain was never the problem. The agony was never asking for rescue. It was asking for birth. Birth, not into comfort, or safety, or normalcy, but into sovereignty. And in that sovereignty, you finally understand. Healing was a door. Transformation was a threshold. But this is the void. The place where nothing defines you, and therefore, everything becomes possible. So don't fill the silence. Don't rush to build. Don't try to name this version of you. Let yourself be unnamed, untamed, unfixed, unfinished. You are not a brand. You are not a project. You are not your trauma's echo. You are a pulse, a force, a frequency, a question the universe keeps asking. And the answer? It isn't in healing. It isn't in transcendence. It isn't even in becoming. It's in this breath, this moment, this unrepeatable now. So stand there, not fixed, not complete, but free. And may the world never again convince you to shrink your wildfire into a flicker, just so others can sleep. Because now you know, you were never meant to heal back to who you were. You were meant to transform into someone no one, not even you, saw coming. And